Hello and welcome back to Foodinati UK, and this is part 2 of our big deep dive interview with Utah Saints, Leeds heroes, and we're going to go deeper and we're going to get more foodie on this one, so keep it locked. I suppose with the nature of Utah's, were you like, because that hit, well, not just something good, and what can you do for me as well, big mega hits, were you just like swept up straight into like stardom quite quickly?
Yeah, we never saw ourselves as like stardom famous. But it's weird because we were like, you know, everybody's heard of us. To the extent where we got, you know, on like Newman and Padilla with this out Main Street Tally doing Utah Saints Unplugged. So when that was on, I thought, shit, if they're doing, that kind of made me realise that they can make a joke about the tally that everybody would find funny.
Yeah.
And it'd get. And that, so I thought, shit, people must know about us now.
Yeah.
And then just little things like my dad, for example, at the time, he never really kind of thought I had a proper job until like he saw our records for sale in 7-inch single for sale in Willis. Because Willis only stopped in top 40.
Yes.
So Willis is long gone now, but getting a record for sale in Willis was quite a big deal. And also being on top of the pops, because that was only like, that was back in the day when there was only, you know, 3 or 4 channels. Yeah. And it was 7 o'clock on Thursday night.
And it was prime.
And everybody saw it, so it's like, so it's quite a big deal being on telly. It's not a big deal being on telly anymore.
Yes.
If you really want to be on telly, anybody can be on telly, do you know what I mean? But it was hard to be on.
Because it's only that half-hour show.
Yeah, so you'd be plonked on telly next to see like Cliff Richard or Lionel Richie or something like that, and we kind of like, there was definitely imposter syndrome. Yes. Because we were like, as Jez said, we just come out of a bedroom in Leeds 6, making a record on the Atari, and then we're like, got to the pops next to Lionel Richie, something like that. So, which is crazy, because we're like, the intention was only ever to sell that 1,000 records. Yeah. And then make another 1,000 records and do another track, and then that was it.
Build it slightly.
Yeah. So suddenly be put on there next to those people.
There's no training for that.
Yeah, there isn't, no.
So it happened very quickly, yeah. But we both, Tim had some tracks out, house tracks out. I'd been in bands before. I was at that point effectively managing a club and doing all the promotion in it, a club called Gallery. Doing a lot of the promotion, sorry, there's lots of people working on it. And so I was heavily involved in nightclubs. I'm making music, I'd always done that. So although Utah's took off, so I met Tim in March, by August we'd had a top 10. Yeah. And so, so it was very fast.
That's a sharp.
Yeah.
But so the only bit that was planned was getting someone with my background, or whether someone with his background. So my background being sort of metal and rock and electronic body music, EBM as it was, so which was kind of a European
like Front 242 and...
Like Front 242, so me and Richard at Front 242 always used to compete on haircuts and mohawk. So, and awesome bands. So bands like Front 242, Young Gods, Skinny Puppy from Canada, lots of bands in that kind of area.
That was the mesh point, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then Tim going out hip hop and house, and that's where we met. And so it was very fast.
When you said earlier about
stuff happening already.
When you said earlier about the record sort of having an urge to it, that's why.
Because it was that melting pot.
Yeah.
I mean,
so a lot of house heads sort of like were like never really kind of understood us, but we weren't really bothered about that because we like.
Yeah, it must be a Harrogate thing. Must be something in the water. Yeah. It's funny because I was, like I said, I did an interview with Acid Rain, H from Acid Rain, and he was interviewing me this time around because we're actually remixing them. So 601's doing a remix of Acid Rain at the moment. So we're on our new stuff actually incorporating a lot more of the rock and metal stuff, but we're doing it in a way that's not as obvious. Yeah. So it's like they've given us a remix, and instead of just like sampling the guitars, we copied the guitars on 303s instead. Yeah. And stuff like that. Oh, cool. So we're working on something. Yeah. But it's not about me, this one. But anyway, it was, I said in the interview, like there was a special time for me between 90 and 93, just before Jungle took my ear, and just after coming out of Baggy Manchester and all that sort of stuff. And that period of music was such a great melting pot, and it had like bands like yourselves, and also like Pop Related itself, who more overtly crossed their gap. And I see that you're going to be on tour with them soon, aren't you?
Yeah.
That'll be a good night.
We've done a few with them, and it just works for some reason. It's like,
I think you both got that same energy that was coming at that era.
They were ahead of the time in terms of their sampling. They had the Shaman. The Shaman always like we went.
Shaman as well. Yeah, of course.
We went on tour. So before Utah's, I was in a band for a little bit called NDMA.
Oh yeah.
Long story about that name, but this is before Acid House kind of took off.
Yeah.
And we got on tour with the Shaman before they had the big hits. And then we kind of lost touch. Shaman went and had a big hit, and we had a couple of hits, and then we ended up back on tour in America. So it was really nice. And the Shaman, for me, were just such innovators as well. So
Shaman's early stuff was actually closer to the more like
the poppies and stuff.
Yeah, it was closer to that. Everyone knows like the big rave anthems they did, but before that, they were quite an underground sort of band. They were, Mr. Seams like doesn't get as much credit as he's due, especially with stuff like he ran The End. Which was an absolute pivotal club. Whereas Fabric gets all the press, The End was very important.
No, you're right. And Colin and Will, the other two members at the time, they were like true innovators as well. Colin was such a deep thinker. He's amazing. So
we toured America with them as well. We ended up for probably two or 3 months. We did.
Wow.
Doing the bus thing. And that was like, they were like great times. They were like some of the best times of our career, weren't they?
They were. You're right. There was 3 years where there was a lot of that kind of crossover, and people were working out, and partly because samplers has suddenly become affordable.
Yeah.
So that was the thing.
I remember for myself around about that time because it was '93 when I started 601.
Yeah.
And that was, as I've said before, like a direct result of listening to Pretty Hectic Machine by 9 Inch Nails, and previous to that listening to Utah Saints, and just like realising it was alright to like keyboards and guitars at the same time. And I didn't go the Atari route, I had an Amiga 500.
There you go.
Equally as cool, that.
Running Optimed. And before we had a quite quick, from forming to doing our first like record was about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were on tour with Luke Guru by the end of '94 into '95.
That's fast as well.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we never had the big hit. We maintained a kind of underground, but happy with what we've done. In the last 30 years. And it doesn't feel like 30 years, does it?
No, it doesn't feel like 30 years. There's so many factors into why a track will take off, and a lot of it's random.
Yeah.
No matter what anybody tells you.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a Beatport #1. We haven't had an actual #1.
Where is #1?
Well, sort of, yeah.
All down to the marketing.
I mean, because you went from that. Was it on the first album you ended up on tour with U2, doing Enormodomes?
Yeah.
That must have been a trip.
Yeah. Because I still remember it really clearly now. The first gig was, they asked us to do 10 shows, the Europa tour in '93, and the first gig was in the football stadium in Rotterdam.
Right.
So I remember turning up, walking into the stadium, and it was a really nice day, and they had a band to soundcheck. So I thought it was U2 playing, but it wasn't. It was their band. It was
their crew?
Their crew.
Oh, their crew had a band that were doing...
Yeah, basically, they were doing Where the Streets Have No Name. And it was like, that was like a great moment. And then Bono actually came over to us and said, "Hi, I'm Bono," introduced himself, and they said, "I really appreciate you doing this. Thanks a lot. If you've got any problems or anything, see me or any of the band." And it was like, it was just a really good tour, and it was really easy going.
Awesome.
And they were totally cool, and they didn't distance themselves in any way. They just like behind the stage there was catering, and they were just sat there. And so it was just cool.
I've never understood why people have a problem with Bono, because he always comes across quite cool.
It was really nice.
They were all really nice. Adam Clayton was awesome. I mean, we really wanted to work with Adam Clayton, but it just didn't work. But We saw probably more of Adam and Larry, and I was always chatting to Adam because he's bass playing. That's where I started.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I always thought that in U2, quite often, or sometimes the bass would get overlooked a little bit, but actually the bass is providing a lot, most of the
linchpin. Yeah. Because that gives the Edge the license to go off with his big delayed guitar bits. The bass is holding it all down. Yeah, no, absolutely.
I like food as well, though. I'm trying these are really good. So these are the mild ones, aren't they?
No, those are the mild ones.
They're the mild ones, they're the Korean ones. Yeah.
There you go, some more right.
Yeah.
That's the spice necessity.
Those mushrooms work as well, that's great. Yeah, so you've just done all the YouTube stuff, and that first massive hit of a record, and we crossed paths later on in life. You had a night here in Leeds, I still think one of the best nights Leeds has seen. Sugar Beat, absolutely belting night. And I'm not saying that because we played it a few times. I'm saying that because it was the only place I could go in Leeds that had that kind of relaxed party vibe. You could also get some wings there.
Yeah.
And you can see Stanton Warriors, Crafty Cuts. 1 week you had DJ Yoda.
Yeah, but too many DJs. We had so much. Too many DJs.
Arthur Baker came and played. We had Mark Harmon, that soft cell played.
Sean Ryder came and played, didn't he?
It was such an eclectic night. We haven't seen the likes of it since. And I don't know, is that because it was a special time in music that it worked then?
But it was an organic thing again. Like the mix thing. It was different in terms of we were kind of back in Leeds.
So basically, I'll fill in the gap up to that beginning. Sorry, we went in after the U2 stuff, the hits and all that. We went into our second album, and we had. Cut a long story short, we lost the plot in terms of music because we had. There was a lot of pressure in America from the American side of the record company to be more industrial because we did a track called "I Want You," which is sampled Slayer.
Yeah.
And so the American wanted us to be a bit more like Nine Inch Nails. UK wanted us to be a bit more like the KLF, who'd split up. And ultimately, we should have just done what Utahs do. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we were judging ourselves against the best music in the world, like. With Prodigy and Underworld were big reference points for us, and we wanted to make tracks as strong as that. And ultimately, we can't make Prodigy tracks, we can't make Underworld tracks, we can make Utah's tracks, and we kind of failed to recognise our strengths a bit.
I think that's a growing up thing when you realise that when you just do you, that's the best advice you could give anyone.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense at the time because you get really insecure about it, and you think, and like I said, we thought we had a bit of imposter syndrome. We thought we've got lucky 3 times in the trot, out of the top 10, like 3 times in the trot. So maybe, we still got a bit insecure about it. So we went into the second album. It was a bit all over the place. Initially, everyone was telling us it had 10 hits on it, really, and then everyone heard it 2 or 3 times, and then it went down from 10 hits to we don't even know what to lead with. So we just thought, right, we need to stop. So we came out of Leeds, regrouped, got us together, and Dave Beer, who runs Back to Basics, came along and said, Arthur Baker, the producer, is involved in this bar called the Elbow Room, which is a pool bar. Do you want TJ on a Thursday? Not as Utah's, because he knew that both of us could DJ. I could do my disco and funk, and Tim could do like hip hop and house. So we said So we just started DJing not as Utah's, but still the 2 of us. So I'd do the first couple of hours, Tim would do the second couple of hours, and it grew organically. It started on Thursday, got busier and busier, then moved to a Saturday, and then just got rammed. Then we ran that from 98 to 2008 every Saturday.
It was classic.
And gradually we started getting confidence back up and thought, let's go and do some Utah DJing gigs. And as we needed replacement DJs for that, and the first one we got in was Crafty Cuts because he was a mate of Tim's. So it all kind of grew from that. And then we just thought, right, it's a pool bar, it's not a full-on club. Let's do something, just try and reflect eclecticism, which is what you said. So we went at literally everybody we could think of. Anybody across our path, we try and get them the DJ.
Oh man, I mean, because Nat and I were going as fans of the club for quite a bit before we played there. Because we just made the move into breaks, like being a breaks act. It was never really a conscious decision. I always think that we were doing breaks before, but we just never called it that. But yeah, we'd done our first couple of prototype records, which came out on like, we were sort of on the Loop Guru Mega Doggy sort of side of things, and then Nat says like starts like playing me stuff that's now known as breaks, and I've been covering a bit of that because I've been working with some drum and bass DJs like Mark East, who's Deep Impact. Like we'd been mates. Like I got him started on sampling, but at the same time I was sort of trying out this thing, drum and bass, and so our relationship with breaks, as it was, came out of that. And we kind of hit on Sugarbait about the same time as we put out our first proper break single, which was a track called 5-0 on Epidemic Records. And you took a charge on us, which was brilliant. And first gig we played for you was with Stannons, who went on to be our bosses. Which Punks, so that was great. And then the next one was Annie Nightingale and Crafty, which was another, and the friendship with Annie endured for a bit there as well. She played quite a lot of our stuff and put us on session at Radio 1, which was great.
Brilliant.
So that all came out of that club, and it's brilliant.
And if you like what you see there, don't forget, please subscribe, click like. And if you leave a comment, you could be in for a prize of one of our Foodinati hot sauces sent to you.
I've stayed in touch with pretty much all the people from the early 90s Leeds style sort of people, yourself included, like Julie Weir and like all the Now Records guys and all that stuff. And I really think that this is why I get so misty-eyed about that period in time, is because the amount of creativity that just exploded out of the Leeds area at that time was just incredible. I know Manchester gets all the plaudits, but Leeds was cool then.
No, we had a lot going on, and I mean, for example, the gallery, going back to the...
the gallery.
Which is a club I was involved with, and I'd got involved with it when it was a restaurant with a function room above it, a bit like this actually. And we just started doing this night called the Mile High Club on a Thursday, and it grew and grew, and I got mates with a guy who bought the building in the club, and it went from being a function room above a restaurant in 3 years. We got it into a 1,400 capacity nightclub, and it was just mental, and it just bonkers all the time, and full. And it was like the reason it doesn't get written about a lot, in the same way a lot of clubs, there was a lot happening then, and a lot of it wasn't documented, and it was basically because everywhere was full. So almost on a weekly basis, we'd get requests for an interview for TV or something because of this new phenomenon, rave. But we'd always say no because we were full and we didn't want any more publicity.
Right.
So as a result, though, looking back 30 years, it doesn't seem as important now because it wasn't as documented as other
years. It's incredible. I mean, there's so many. It's mind-boggling when I think of so many points in dance music that I've been around where I didn't realise something special was happening there. Where it would be like looking at what someone else's career's doing, or what I didn't realise they were going to be as important as they turned out to be and stuff like that. There's so much going on. I think that's just what the 90s was like. There was just so much going on that blinking you'll miss it.
Well, also, if you're right in the middle of it, it felt like a movement, but it didn't feel as big as it was.
No.
And it was only, I think, a turning point for me was when, back in the day when we only had 4 TV channels in the early 90s, there's a place that Tim referred to earlier in Hounslow, and he got busted, and it was for having a rave in this warehouse, and 836 kids basically, or people, young people, all got arrested for being at this rave, and it was just on the outskirts of Leeds, and it made the lead story on the news above everything else that was happening. And I just thought, right, this is a bigger deal than we're appreciating.
And also it could tie in with what I've seen a lot of press on recently, which is distraction tactics. Because we needed to have a villain at the time, and so rave culture, that'll be our villain. Because the real villains were up to other stuff,
they were.
But and
then the villain out of the 836 people was Rob Cesare. They continued as a DJ. they kind of pushed on him, and he got sent down.
So post Sugar Beet, I know that you've been massively involved with a festival that my lot are playing at this summer, Beet Herder.
Yeah.
You've collaborated with them quite a few times now, haven't you?
So what happened with Beet Herder was, when we were talking about this because we had a meeting the other day and we also remember it, but basically 2007, before Something Good 08 came out again, was the big hit. In 2007, they wrote us a really nice letter saying we started this festival, it's been going 2 years, and will you come and play it? And we said, well, basically didn't say, but our agent could have said, what's the money, normal stuff like that. And they went and they wrote a letter back, which got forwarded to us, and they just said, we really want to play, we've got this much money, but we've also got a car we could sell. But we thought, we're not having you sell your car, so we'll come. So we said, you don't need to sell the car, we'll just come.
So that's the most Beet Herder thing I've ever heard.
So they didn't sell the car, and we rocked up there, and at that time it had grown from a little party that they put on in some woods with about a couple hundred people. It had grown to 1,500 people when we got there. It's now at 15,000.
Yeah.
We got on really well in that 2007, and we just said, look, we're booking nights on a weekly basis in Leeds. Maybe we can help out with some of the booking because we're just starting off. So
we used to do the woods on the Friday night.
So we started booking the woods on the Friday night.
Yeah,
doing a Sugar Beet night there, and now we curate a stage called The Ring, and we curate that over 3 days. It's a great real privilege to be able to be involved with it still and be able to put on lineups that. And we still put on eclectic lineups. So we have.
So you're playing in the Fortresses yet?
Yeah.
Stumblefunk.
Stumblefunk.
We did Jeff. We did Stumblefunk last year.
Yeah.
And he just asked us back, and we're just definitely doing it. So I mean, it's such a lovely vibe. Like, it's so good natured, and I don't know if you saw it, but last year when Niles Rodgers came on and stuff like that, little just moments like that. That's why I like the smaller festivals.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like you're in the presence of greatness in a little field, just in Lancashire, and also the Whalers as well on the Sunday night was just like, I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. You know what I mean? So it's beautiful moments like that you could possibly miss somewhere as big as Glastonbury.
Yeah, no, we think it's Beet Herder's the best festival. We're kind of. It's quite a spiritually kind of, without going all hippie on it, it's got a lot of soul. And the reason it's got soul is that the guys who set it up set out with a vision, and they're still there. They're still pursuing that vision. You find that anything, like you've got real soul about what you and passion coming across, like for your music and food.
Thank you.
And no, that comes across in life. You realise how important that is, and so Beet Herder is there because it's got that vision from those guys who set it up, and it just permeates everything.
Oh, it seems to be a very much family vibe there, and you don't. I mean, I've been at festivals before, and I've played festivals before where one stage is bitching off another stage and all that. Not Beet Herder. It's like we've got a scratch DJ who joins us in 601, DJ M, and he just all weekend he's on a different stage every 2 minutes.
Everybody gets on all right, and it's like. Because I spoke to Jeff the other day, because a friend of mine is working with an act called Vengeance, which is a drum and bass thing, and he was wanting a home for it at Beet Herder, and so I was like, probably it would work in Stumblefunk because it's a right thing. So I introduced him to Jeff, so
we all work together to make
Jeff does the visuals like on the stage we work on. So even though he does Stumblefunk, so everybody's like going between the things. So
it's great fun last year.
And the one thing about that festival, I think, which makes it stand out, is that it's like, they spend probably 2 months building it before, and then 2 months after taking it down. So it's not like you go to a lot of festivals and you see like tents and marquees put up 5 days before.
Yeah.
And this is, the farmer who has the land is involved in the festival.
Right.
So it's it just feels like it's like permanently going that front place.
Right.
You go there, don't you? And you walk down, you go through the woods, and there's like
the street thing.
And you feel like this is always here. And it's really special.
Cool. Well, that brings me neatly onto the fact that you will be seeing Foodinati filming at the festivals this year. the first time I can say this because I've got it confirmed. Beat Herder will be one of those festivals you'll see us at, and we'll be featuring some of the food you can find there, because last year some of the food was cracking and you need to know about it.
Yeah.
So on that note, I'm going to tie up our interview here. Tim, Jez, pleasure as ever.
Thanks ever so much for having me.
Absolutely awesome.
Great food.
Yeah, great.
There we go. Cult Wing Leeds, Merriam Street.
Excellent food.
So,
Thanks a lot, man. Cheers.
Thanks a lot for watching, and join us next week when we'll have Liverpool's Video Nasties with their Black and Roll Assault, and we'll also have, all the way from Telford, Shropshire, Recall the Remains will be joining us in York to talk about all things metalcore and beyond. Keep it locked.